So when a shocking political assassination happened in his own state of Utah, Republican Governor Spencer Cox did something, well, something pretty unexpected. Instead of calling for revenge, he actually called for reconciliation. Today, we're going to dive into his urgent warning about this crisis of political hate that he believes, and this is a big deal, threatens the very future of the country. So yeah, let's get right into it.
You know, what's really striking here is just how Governor Cox frames the stakes. I mean, listen to that quote. This is not about some feel-good kumbaya moment, like his critics love to say. For him, the goal is way more urgent, way more fundamental. It's about stopping this slide into deadly political violence. So, to really get why he's so urgent about this, you have to look at the context, right? The attack in Utah, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. It wasn't some random isolated event. No, it was actually the culmination of this really terrifying pattern of escalating violence.
Okay, just take a look at this timeline. In just the 1 year leading up to the murder of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, think about this. The country saw an attempted assassination of a presidential candidate, the firebombing of a governor's home, and the murder of state lawmakers and their spouses. This was a nation on a really, really dangerous path, with the violence just getting more frequent and more deadly.
So, in this moment of just sickness, disbelief, and intense anger, Governor Cox makes this really crucial choice. Of course, he promised to bring the killer to justice, but at the same time, he started looking for a deeper response, one that could get at the root cause of the violence, not just this one horrific symptom. So what did Governor Cox do publicly? How did he respond? Well, he issued this really unconventional call for self-reflection. And as you can probably guess, that call immediately drew fire, especially from his own side of the aisle. So instead of just focusing on that one single act of violence, Cox really broadened the lens. He made a point to acknowledge the attacks on both Republicans and Democrats, and then he made this plea for every single American to just stop and think about the path we're all on. He wasn't offering any easy answers here. He was asking a really, really hard question.
And look, that call for everyone to look in the mirror, that was not what some people wanted to hear. I mean, when your political climate basically feels like a war, a call to de-escalate can sound a lot like weakness, right?
And the pushback? It was swift and it was sharp. You had prominent figures like Steve Bannon calling him a national embarrassment. The criticism pretty much boiled down to this, that Governor Cox was just being naive, trying to hug it out when he should have been fighting back. And honestly, this is where you really see that whole outrage economy at work, isn't it? In a system that actually rewards conflict, a call for calm can feel like you're betraying the cause.
All right, so if the problem really runs this deep, what does Governor Cox think is the actual root cause? What's the disease behind all these violent symptoms? Let's take a look at his diagnosis.
Yeah, he has a very specific idea about what's poisoning our public life. And for him, it's not just about politicians or policies. He believes it's the technology we're all using every single day. And he does not mince words about it. He calls it a cancer. He argues that these social media platforms are literally designed to amplify our worst instincts, just pushing us toward division and hate because, well, that's what gets profit and engagement.
And the specific mechanism he's talking about, it's something he calls outrage algorithms. The thing to remember is these platforms aren't neutral. They are specifically programmed to figure out what makes you angry and then just feed you more of it. Why? Because outrage is one of the best ways to keep you glued to your screen, to keep you scrolling.
So here's the really crucial point he makes. Cox believes we're all trapped in a system that's creating a chemical addiction to outrage. You know those little dopamine hits we get from seeing our opponents get dunked on or vilified? Well, in his view, that is literally rewiring our brains and just destroying our ability to see each other as fellow human beings, as fellow citizens.
But Cox isn't just about diagnosing the problem, right? He's a governor, he's an executive, so he's focused on action. For years now, he's been trying to actually model a solution. So let's dive into how he puts these ideas into practice with his Disagree Better initiative.
And this isn't new for him. This goes all the way back to his 2020 campaign for governor. I mean, think about it. Typical campaigns are built on attack ads, right? Well, Cox did the exact opposite. He flat out refused to run negative ads and even filmed a joint ad with his Democratic opponent, Chris Peterson, where they both called for a better way in politics. Pretty amazing.
And he didn't stop in Utah. He decided, hey, let's take this message national. So when he became the chair of the National Governors Association, he used that platform to launch Disagree Better. And this wasn't just some press release either. He brought together dozens of governors, we're talking Republicans and Democrats, to actually tour the country and show people what healthy, passionate disagreement can actually look like. And this right here is the core idea. It's not about abandoning your principles. It's not about meeting in the middle on every single issue. It's about changing your assumptions. It's about starting from a place where you don't automatically assume the person you disagree with is evil or deluded or just plain stupid.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. It's a really inspiring vision, for sure. But in today's hyper-partisan world, is it anything more than just a naive dream?
And he gets this question all the time. Governor, in a world this divided, isn't this whole approach just naive? Especially when the stakes feel so incredibly high on both sides?
And his answer is fascinating. He actually embraces the label. He argues, hey, the American founders were naive to think they could build a whole new kind of country. He says it was naive to think the nation could ever rebuild after a brutal civil war. He believes that this passionate, hopeful kind of naivete, it is no weakness at all. It might just be the only thing that can pull us back from the brink. So the question he really leaves us with isn't just, could he be right, but maybe more importantly, what happens if he's wrong?